Sloane sat alone in her dim downtown LA loft after a long shift. She mindlessly scrolled through her cousin's Instagram stories to unwind. Suddenly, her heart dropped as a vibrant video filled the screen. Her parents, Vance and Lorelai, were hosting a massive celebration at their Calabasas estate. The backyard was transformed into a luxury venue for her sister Fallon's 22nd birthday. Sparkling lights, a live band, and high-end catering filled the frame. Just 3 days ago, Lorelai promised Sloane that the weekend would be silent. She claimed Fallon was too exhausted from finals for any kind of gathering. Watching her parents toast to their favorite girl, Sloane felt completely erased. She realized this wasn't a simple oversight. It was a calculated exclusion. Despite living only 45 minutes away, she was treated like a total stranger. Despite the stinging rejection, Sloane refused to let bitterness win that night. She wanted to believe there was still a bridge left to cross with her family. The next morning, she drove to Tiffany & Co. and bought a stunning silver bracelet. It cost her $500, a significant portion of her monthly savings. She carefully tucked a handwritten note inside, filled with genuine words of love. She hoped this small piece of kindness would finally break the ice between them. 2 days later, Sloane saw a new notification pop up on her phone screen. Fallon had posted a birthday haul video on TikTok that was already going viral. Sloane watched as her sister pulled the iconic blue box from a designer gift bag. Fallon shrieked with joy, clasping the bracelet onto her wrist for the camera. But then, the caption flashed across the bottom of the screen. "Mom and Dad always know my style best. Momengasai and da true and dao, mummy and tai, nuns." Sloane waited for a mention of her name, a tag, or even a simple thank you. Instead, Lorelai commented with a heart emoji, claiming credit for the thoughtful gift. Vance liked the post, silently confirming the lie to their entire social circle. Not a single text message arrived in Sloane's inbox to acknowledge the gesture. They didn't just ignore her presence, they actively erased her generosity. She sat in silence, realizing that her olive branch had been burned for fuel. Her parents were no longer just distant, they were becoming her greatest rivals. If you found out your own family took credit for an expensive gift you sacrificed to buy, would you call them out publicly or just cut ties in silence? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. The sting of the stolen gift forced Sloane into a painful walk down memory lane. She realized the birthday party wasn't a fluke, it was the climax of a lifelong pattern. Every memory surfaced like cold water, chilling her to the very bone. She remembered her 18th birthday, spent waiting for a celebration that never came. Vance had handed her a grocery store card with a rushed, generic signature. The cake was a dry, pre-made sponge from a Walmart shelf, bought at the last minute. Yet, for Fallon's Sweet 16, no expense was spared by their parents. They rented a fleet of white limos to ferry her friends across the city. Lorelai had surprised her with a designer handbag that cost more than Sloane's first car. Whenever Sloane tried to speak up about the obvious gap, she was silenced. "Fallon is sensitive and needs our extra support right now," Lorelai would whisper. "You are the strong one, Sloane. You need to be mature and understand." Being the strong one had become a prison sentence she never asked for. She saw now that her maturity was just a tool they used to ignore her needs. They weren't just favoring the youngest, they were cultivating a favorite child. Sloane was merely the placeholder, the one kept in the background of their perfect life. The realization was a heavy weight in her chest, making it hard to breathe. She wasn't just a sister or a daughter, she was an outsider in her own home. Their love was a limited resource, and they had decided she didn't qualify. On a gray Thursday afternoon, Sloane's phone buzzed with an unexpected caller ID. It was Millicent, her maternal grandmother, a woman of sharp edges and few words. Millicent lived in a historic, ivy-covered craftsman home in the heart of Pasadena. She was a retired court stenographer who valued precision over emotional warmth. Sloane usually only spoke to her during stiff, mandatory holiday gatherings, but this time, Millicent's voice sounded different. It was cold and clinical. "Drive to my house tomorrow morning," Millicent commanded without a greeting. "Come alone and do not tell Lorelai or Vance that we are meeting." The secrecy in her grandmother's tone sent a shiver down Sloane's spine. She tried to ask why, but Millicent simply repeated the instruction and hung up. Sloane barely slept that night, tossing and turning in her small apartment. She wondered if her grandmother was ill or needed help with her estate. The next morning, the drive to Pasadena felt longer than it ever had before. The quiet streets and manicured lawns seemed to hide 1,000 secrets. She parked her car and walked up the concrete path, her heart racing. Before she could even reach for the brass knocker, the door swung open. Millicent stood there, her eyes scanning the street for any sign of a tale. She didn't offer a hug or a smile, only a firm grip on Sloane's wrist. "Get inside quickly," she whispered, her voice like a sharpening blade. The sound of the deadbolt clicking shut echoed through the silent hallway. Millicent led Sloane into a dimly lit living room that smelled of old books. "Your parents are not the people you believe them to be," the older woman began. She didn't waste time on small talk, she went straight for the jugular. That party in Calabasas wasn't just a birthday, it was a victory celebration. Sloane sat on the edge of a velvet sofa, her hands trembling in her lap. Millicent revealed that Arthur, Sloane's late grandfather, had left a massive legacy. He had established a secret trust fund consisting of prime California real estate. Because he saw how the family dynamics were shifting, he bypassed Lorelai. He left everything, millions of dollars in assets, exclusively to his first grandchild, Sloane. The trust was set to unlock automatically on her 30th birthday, just months away, but Vance and Lorelai had discovered the existence of the fund years ago. They had spent that time plotting a way to divert the fortune to Fallon. They viewed the money as their own, and Sloane as an obstacle to be removed. "They are currently in the final stages of a legal heist," Millicent explained. They needed to prove Sloane was unfit to manage such a significant inheritance. The party was the public signal that Fallon was the true heir to the family name. Sloane felt the floor drop out from under her as the betrayal sank in. Her own parents were willing to destroy her future for a payday. Millicent reached into a hidden wall safe and pulled out a heavy manila folder. "I've been tracking their movements for nearly a year," she said firmly. Inside were documents that made Sloane's stomach turn with instant nausea. She saw her own signature forged perfectly on dozens of legal waivers. There were letters from a private doctor claiming Sloane suffered from severe instability. Her parents had painted a picture of a daughter who was lost to addiction and rage. One email from Vance to their lawyer read, "She's isolated herself from everyone. If we keep her out of the loop, the judge will see her as unreachable." They had even manufactured a timeline of events where Sloane refused help. Page after page documented a calculated character assassination by her own flesh and blood. The most haunting part was a note regarding the party at the Calabasas house. It was labeled as a strategic family event to solidify Fallon's public image. While Sloane was sending a $500 gift, they were stealing millions. The gold fondant and champagne toasts were paid for by the very legacy they stole. Every "I love you" from her mother over the phone had been a strategic lie. They weren't just favoring Fallon, they were actively erasing Sloane's existence. She looked at the forged signatures and felt a cold, hard resolve take over. The girl who wanted her parents' love died in that living room in Pasadena. A new version of Sloane was born, one who was ready to fight back. "I won't let them spit on your grandfather's final wishes," Millicent declared. She explained that she had used her old court connections to gather the evidence, but they needed one more thing to ensure a total victory in the courtroom. Millicent placed a small digital recorder on the coffee table between them. "I called Lorelai yesterday under the guise of discussing my will," she said. The recording started and Sloane heard her mother's voice, smooth and manipulative. "Mom, don't worry about the paperwork," Lorelai's voice rang out clearly. "Once we get Sloane declared legally incompetent next week, it's all ours. Vance has the judge in his pocket, it's a done deal, and Fallon gets her future." Lorelai laughed, a sound that used to bring Sloane comfort but now felt like venom. "Sloane doesn't even suspect a thing, she's still sending us gifts like a fool." Hearing those words, being called a fool by her own mother, snapped something. The forensic evidence was strong, but this confession was the smoking gun. They had caught a predator admitting to the hunt on tape. Sloane looked at her grandmother and saw a reflection of her own newfound steel. They spent the rest of the night coordinating with a high-stakes litigation attorney. They wouldn't just defend the trust, they would dismantle the liars. The plan was set for the upcoming hearing at the Los Angeles Superior Court. The hunters were about to become the prey in their own rigged game. Hearing your mother call you a fool while she plots to steal your life is a level of betrayal most can't imagine. Do you think some people are just born without a conscience, or does greed change them? Drop a comment with your take. The morning of the hearing was bright and deceptively beautiful in Los Angeles. Vance, Lorelai, and Fallon arrived at the courthouse looking like $1,000,000. They wore coordinated designer outfits, projecting an image of unity and grace. They expected a quick, closed-door session to finalize their fraudulent petition. As they stood near the mahogany doors, Sloane stepped out from the shadows. She was dressed in a sharp navy suit, her hair pulled back in a tight, professional bun. Behind her stood Millicent and a woman known as the Shark of family law. The color drained from Lorelai's face, turning her expensive makeup into a mask. Vance tried to play it off, reaching out with a fake, paternal smile. "Sloane, honey, what are you doing here? This is a private family matter. Men's daum. Intensified and Rebirth." Sloane didn't flinch. She didn't even acknowledge his hollow greeting. "The only thing private about today is the crimes you've committed," she replied. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere turned freezing as the judge took the bench. Sloane's lawyer immediately filed an emergency motion to intervene and stay the order. She laid out the manila folder, the forgeries, the fake medical reports, the tape. The judge, a woman known for her zero-tolerance policy, began to read. The silence in the room was so thick it felt like it was suffocating the Millers. Fallon began to cry, but for the first time, Sloane felt absolutely nothing. The Golden Girl was finally seeing the cracks in her gilded pedestal. The judge looked up from the documents, her eyes flashing with pure professional fury. "Mr. and Mrs. Vance, you have presented this court with a web of lies," she stated. She didn't just deny their petition, she referred the file to the district attorney. "I am seeing evidence of identity theft, perjury, and elder financial abuse." The elder abuse charge came because they had also tried to lock Millicent out. The court immediately froze every asset linked to the Arthur Trust. A bailiff stood by the door as the judge ordered a full forensic audit of their lives. Within 48 hours, the news of the Calabasas con hit the local papers. Vance was placed on immediate leave from his firm as his clients fled in terror. The prestigious social circles they spent decades climbing slammed their doors shut. The beautiful mansion in Calabasas was soon littered with for sale signs. Fallon's Range Rover was repossessed because the payments were tied to the trust. She was forced to withdraw from her private university as the tuition checks bounced. The family that had tried to erase Sloane was now being erased by the truth. The favorite girl was now an outcast, and the strong one was the victor. Every lie they told to make Sloane look unstable had backfired on them. They had built a house of cards on a foundation of betrayal and greed. Now, as the wind of justice blew, they had nowhere left to hide. The erasure was complete, but this time it was their names being wiped away. With the legal storm finally settled, the Arthur Trust was secured under Sloane's sole control. She didn't use the fortune for vengeance, she used it for freedom. Lorelai sent a desperate, tear-stained letter begging for family forgiveness, but Sloane didn't even break the seal before tossing it into the shredder. She moved Millicent into a breathtaking Santa Monica penthouse where they could watch the Pacific sunset in peace. The people who tried to bury her were now ghosts in her rearview mirror, struggling to rebuild their shattered reputations. Sloane realized that being erased was actually the greatest gift her parents ever gave her. It allowed her to stop being the daughter they wanted and start being the woman she was meant to be. The family she lost was a lie, but the life she gained was finally, undeniably hers.